I'm your host, T. Mitchell Bell, and we have here in the studio Mr. Fred Gillen Jr. How you doing, Fred?
Hi, good.
Good, good. Thank you for coming in. And we're running half an hour early. Fred has a show this afternoon. You're going down to Wheeling, right?
Yep, Wheeling, West Virginia.
School thing with Tom Brody, right?
Yeah, it's Wheeling Jesuit University.
Okay. And then another show after that, man. So you're like...
Yeah. On the road again.
You're a troubadour. You are a troubadour. So, Fred, this is the second time I've had you in, and you got a new CD coming out. We got a lot of things that came out this summer, fall, and we got a lot to talk about. But would you like to start off with playing something for us?
Yeah, this is the title song, Silence of the Night. Our shadows met like Peter Pan's. Mine had a mind of its own. I had to catch it. I left you there silent. By the time I found it hiding, you'd grown hard on your own. Love is a fragile house, decrepit dockside shanty, lit by Christmas lights, painted like a carnival against endless silence of the night. Silence of the night. You kept a brave face, being let down just when you thought you'd found a home takes a toll. You drew on memories, they were few and old, distant dreams of a trail, overgrown and cold. Love is a fragile house, decrepit dockside shanty, lit by Christmas lights, painted like a carnival against endless silence of the night. Silence of the night. Come for the ride. You were raised inside, never learned to face the silence of the night. Silence of the night. Our shadows met, the darkness they made, when combined was dark enough to frighten anyone away. Love is a fragile house, decrepit dockside shanty, lit by Christmas lights, painted like a carnival against the endless silence of the night. Silence of the night.
Very nice tune, man. Like that.
Thanks.
Yeah. So what have you been up to since the last time you were here? That was, I think, one of our first shows that we did.
Was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, you know, first off, this year was Woody Guthrie's 100th birthday, and a friend of mine, a songwriter up in Burlington, Vermont, Rick Polari, said to me, we should all be like, if Woody were here, we'd all have to thank him because a bunch of us have gotten a lot of work. Because I kind of have this connection with Woody Guthrie, with the Woody Guthrie Foundation, so people want to put on Woody shows this year because of the 100th birthday. So I've done a lot of that. The summer was around his birthday was really
cool. And Pete has his the Clearwater, was it the festival?
Yeah, we did a Woody set at the Clearwater.
Cool.
That was great.
I have to go up to that sometime. It's I don't know how long it is how far it is to get up there, but it's
it's pretty far.
So did you were you spared the intensity of the storm that came through, or
you know, where I lost power just only for about 4 days, but the hard thing was in Westchester where I live. We ran out of gas. I mean, the county completely ran out of gas the Friday and the Saturday after the storm. So there were these long lines, but they never made it to the end of the line. Like, they would get halfway through the line. Some people would wait for 4 hours, and then they would be told, we're out, we're done.
Oh, no.
And they couldn't get any deliveries because this big pipeline was shut down and the port was closed.
Wow.
So New Jersey was worse. New York City was out of gas, and the subways weren't running, so everybody just had to stay put. But comparatively, I had it okay, and I had an interesting little gasoline odyssey.
Did you?
I had a bunch of sort of somewhat local gigs, but not really local, and I didn't go get gas before the storm, so I got to my first gig, and then I knew that was going to be it. So I left my car at my mother's house, and I took her car because she had lots of gas and didn't need her car. And I got to meet. From there, we went to the second gig, which is in Jersey, where there was no gas. So we made it to that in my partner's car, and then I got back, and then Sunday I needed to get to a gig. And it was just crazy. So I went out early Sunday morning and waited online for a couple hours at 7 o'clock in the morning and filled up a 5-gallon can to go fill my car. And I topped my mom's off.
Oh, man.
And then I drove north to get to the gig, and everything was fine up there. I filled up. You know.
Man. So there's and I didn't realize you were in Westchester County. Peekskill, that's close to where you are? Is that where you are?
Yeah, I'm in Peekskill.
Okay. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that was Westchester County, because I always think of Westchester as where the Clintons live, and that's pretty close.
I live. I mean, I'm in a little city, so I don't live in the same kind of neighborhood as the Clintons. When I get home, I'll play at that farmers market, the Clintons town farmers market,
where they hang out. Like, if they come to get their fresh fruit.
I've never seen them.
Yeah, they probably have.
One of their servants, I'm sure, is probably there.
Yeah. Well, that's still close. I know that, and I was watching everything watching a Twitter feed. Really, was where I was finding stuff before it was making it on the news. And Twitter was really like, people were putting videos up when the power station blew up. Somebody had posted a video of it. Like, why isn't this out on the news? And it really made it. It was there first. And you have to be careful sometimes, because people post things that you don't know if it's real or not, and there was a lot of that going on too, but I was watching the feed, and that's when basically power was gone from 39th Street down, and so everything up above that must have been fine. Yeah, but we did a show last Friday, and I forgot to talk about it. In fact, Joy was in here, and we were talking about New York City. And I don't know why, I just I was half brain dead that day to not, ask people to go out and donate to the Red Cross and I know there's a lot of places that you could do that on iTunes, and you know, what amazes me is how a city so electrically dependent, you know, on power, and how when that goes, like everything, just, you know, like gasoline stations can't pump gas and everything. So I know you're very environmentally aware. I think that, you know, there's really needs to be some type of sustainable solution for all these places that were destroyed, you know.
Yeah, and, you know, a bunch of interesting things. One is that where the water came to in Manhattan was what Manhattan was before it was developed. Meaning, like, a lot of Manhattan, they've built seawalls, and they've taken marshlands and made it part of the island, essentially. And the water came back to where it was 300 years ago. So it's just, to me, that illustrated the fragility of the whole thing. And then the fact that we could not get gas deliveries for 5 days and literally run out of gasoline. It's like, wow, you know.
There's a lot of people there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people and not a lot of space. So
yeah, and
you know,
so many dependencies so many interdependencies that happen that all it takes is for one to go down, and a lot of, you know, and Appalachia is the supplier, you know, for a lot of the electricity there, and part of me was just like, leave the lights out for a little bit longer, man. You know, like shut Times Square down. You know, it's like people aren't going to be coming there to tour Times Square for the next couple of days, so just leave the lights off for a while. You know, that's kind of how I was feeling about it. It was like, maybe this is a test run. You know.
Yeah. The hard thing was that a lot of people still didn't have power when the temperature went down and the snow came last week. I was out of there by then. I was in Philly, and it was snowing a little and raining by then. And so, you know, there were a lot of people without heat, and it had gotten down to freezing.
Yeah.
So that was when it got, I think, probably a little hairy for some people.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
I bet.
Amazing thing was we had to go to Jersey to play a benefit for local food pantries out there, and it was a big giant show with Tom Chapin and all these people, big Woody Guthrie event. So it was sold out months ago, and they got power at the venue just, I think, on Friday, and the concert was Saturday, so they went through with it. And it turned out that the food pantries we were doing the benefit for lost power at all 8 of their locations. So and they had twice as many people who showed up that weekend for food because people had lost power and had been actually displaced from their homes, you know. So it was so great. We couldn't have planned it better. You know, the concert was booked a year in advance.
Yeah.
And here we were, and we almost couldn't do it because of power. And they said, no, do it. And the place was packed, and we raised a boatload of money. You know, it was just like, wow, this is so great.
That's the way,
And a bunch of people, all the artists from Brooklyn had to all, like, squeeze into one little car and come over and bring less stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend in Brooklyn that I was, you know, he didn't lose power, believe it or not. His Greenpoint, I think, is the area he's in, and they didn't lose power there.
It was pretty... In some cases, it was kind of random, you know.
Well, hey, I'd love it if you would play something else. We'll talk a little bit about this new CD that you put out and the track that you have featured on Pete Seeger's.
Yeah, we'll get to that too. For sure.
Yeah. What do you want to play for us?
I'm still in this tuning, so I'll do this. This is talking about gasoline, just what the automobile means to Americans as a metaphor. That's got to change. It can't represent freedom anymore, you know? So anyway. $100 paint job and brand new stereo. Thought I'd be driving a miracle mile, but a tire came off and the alternator died before I even got to the highway. This old car is full of memories. Can't get far, but she sure feels good to drive. May not start all the time or run in the rain. This old car is my best friend. I got a set of fuzzy dice and an air freshener, wool seat covers to hide coffee stains, but the roof is leaking and the carpet stinks of mildew. So even if she starts, I can't drive her in the rain. This old car is full of memories. Can't get far, but she sure feels good to drive. May not start all the time or run in the rain, but this old car is my best friend. I had my first kiss in her back seat. I heard every Beatles song through worn out speakers, seen 42 states through her dirty windshield. Got to know this country from behind her wheel. So if you see me stuck, will you please help me out? Tell you my story if you give me a lift. You see me swerve, no, I'm not drunk. Every drive with her is an unexpected gift. This old car is full of memories. Can't get far, but she sure feels good to drive. May not start all the time or run in the rain, but this old car is my best friend. This old car, my best friend.
All right, that was. I don't want to compare it to any, but it sounds like a Neil Young rocking out tune.
Yeah,
I hear him like it's
Doing the crazy horse.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that music.
Yeah, he's an inspiration to every singer-songwriter I think that's out there in terms of like longevity and just when I see him rocking out at 70 years old, it's just like wow.
And also doing his thing, whatever it is in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has a big hit with Harvest Moon, but then he's got a real rock record in him, and he does Sleeps with Angels, and the guys at the record company, they're like, no, we wanted another acoustic,
And that's really what an artist has to do,
Yeah.
You have to follow that muse.
Yeah.
And you can't just, that's probably what's, the biggest gripe I have with music today is that everybody playing it safe and everybody wants to hear safe music.
Thinking about marketing.
Yeah, your branding and.
Yeah.
So speaking of branding, that was on Car Talk though, huh? That song.
Yeah. As soon as I recorded it, I sent it in because I'm such a huge fan. I listen every week, pretty much. You know.
Yeah.
Gotta send it, and I address the envelope. People who listen to Car Talk, you know, and they always give their address. They say "Our Fair City," so I actually address the envelope, Cambridge, Your Fair City, Massachusetts. I figured that would help to get on. Let them know I was a super fan.
Super fan. Well, it did. It must have worked.
I guess, yeah.
How
Played a lot of it.
Cool.
They played like right up to the bridge.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So tell me about the car it's written about.
Well, you know, it's probably a conglomeration of many cars that I've had. I had an Escort that when I bought it, it was infested with mice. And I found out a few days after I bought it, when the poops started arriving every morning.
Like, wait a minute, I didn't leave that here.
I had a Reliant K car that the engine mounts were loosened because if you tightened them, the whole car would shimmy. So if you just loosen the engine mounts a little bit, everything would go smooth. So it was totally dangerous, you know.
Yeah.
But kids don't understand this stuff because these cars have computers now and they're quiet. When we were kids, like, we had a Gran Torino, and if it rained, you couldn't go anywhere. It wouldn't start ever in the rain.
Everything was, the wiring was, the alternator just didn't like the moisture.
Yeah, we replaced the distributor cap. We replaced they did everything to try and fix it, and it never.
Wow. Yeah, I remember my mom had a Plymouth Horizon. I think it was a 1980 Plymouth Horizon that just died one time. My grandfather and I were working on that thing, and it ended up being like a distributor problem or something. Yeah. And like right now, my Subaru, my Legacy Outback, 99 Subaru Legacy Outback has 190,000 miles on it, and I will, probably drive that car into the ground and then some. I've already replaced a bunch of stuff in it,
Subarus are famous for that light coming on, like the engine light or something.
Yeah.
And you got to go out before you get inspection. You have to go out and drive it for about an hour and get it nice and good and hot. And then you bring it in for inspection while the light comes off and you get inspected and then...
You just described exactly my last inspection.
Yeah, every Subaru gets to that point.
It's the gas sensor.
The gas sensor, it goes and yeah.
Yeah, and the only way you can get it, you have to take the whole gas. You have to take the rear seat out, and you have to get to this one little thing. And
that's huge.
And that's my mechanic said, drive it, and it really was based on the temperature outside. If it's really hot, and in the summertime, and you're driving it, it will come on. It's usually when you fill the whole tank, and then it will come on. And then you drive it around a little bit, and it would go off after a while. Well, this one particular time, it didn't go off for a whole month, and we took it in a couple times, and it went off, but it was still. I had tried to disconnect the battery, the whole bit. Yeah. So finally, it went off. It's like, hey, honey, take it in right now. Make an appointment this morning. So yeah, it passed. That's funny. Well, being a touring musician, you want to have something that's reliable, and if you have to sleep in it, all these other kind of things that you it's like, I know how many vans that people have, that drive around the old. I've been trying to find an old Vanagon or something like that to use, but they're so hard to get, and the prices they hold their value pretty well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so tell me a little bit about, so you have a tune. We're going to play this a little bit later when Brett has to leave a little early to go to his gig. But you were on the CD Pete Seeger put out recently?
Yeah, well, Pete just put out two records. One of them's got Springsteen and Tom Morello and people like that on it. And the other one is called Pete Remembers Woody. And it's Pete telling stories about Woody Guthrie. David Burns went up to Pete's house and spent many hours. I think he got about 20 or 30 hours of interview, and then he edited it and he picked the best stuff. And he has a band called Work of the Weavers. That's like a Weavers tribute. He was gonna just have Work of the Weavers score this thing, and he realized, no, I think I want to bring in some other artists that really do Woody. So he called me up. He loves my version of I Ain't Got No Home, and he asked for that song for the record.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's cool. I mean, because I've been stalking Pete for years, and driving him to gigs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to have this happen.
You live pretty close to where?
Yeah, I'm about 20 miles from him.
Awesome.
So,
Man, I want to get up there and meet him before, he's getting up there, so I'd like to get up to a show or something. I've never seen Pete Seeger in concert, and that's like something I need to kick.
Oh, yeah. Well, we just did a show in his hometown, a bunch of us, and he came down and did Hobo's Lullaby at the show, so we got to sing Hobos with him. So that was cool.
I didn't realize his impact on. I saw a documentary, and they were talking about. He put out this series on learning how to play the banjo in the 50s.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, he taught America how to play the banjo.
Pretty much.
Like millions of kids played banjo because of him.
And when they, when he was censored or blacklisted, that's what he did. He did that, and plus he put out his own show on like public broadcast, and some really great stuff. He brought in a lot of really cool people to play on that show, and that's what I really loved his testimony, in front of the House on Un-American Activities.
He was convicted.
He was convicted.
He was actually convicted
by Congress.
But he got he ended up getting a suspended sentence after some appeal.
Really? Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he was actually convicted. So he was convicted essentially as a traitor.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and then, however many years later, he gets the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Right.
So that's unprecedented. I don't think it's happened to anybody.
It's insane. It is. Really, when you think about it, when he gives and he testifies, and they ask him, and he says, that's none of your business.
Yeah.
Really, what I think is none of your business, and that's true. I mean, what are you supposed to say? I'm going to incriminate myself about. It's like it's none of your business, really. The Congress doesn't have any authority to start prying around in people's personal lives, and I think, we get into a political discussion. You and I, we're in the same vein. We're going to go out and speak our mind, whether or not it's popular or whatever. And I think that this selection was it just refuted everything that they've been trying to do. In terms of this right wing Tea Party stuff,
especially with the Senate.
But
even all the money that they spent, on the Senate and didn't get any seats,
Yeah, I heard Sheldon Adelson spent, I think it was $30-some million or whatever, and not one candidate he backed won.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is Citizens United? Is it even? It's kind of like they threw all this money into it, and they didn't win.
Maybe the one great thing about it is that they passed this evil law, Citizens United, but the marketplace will make it irrelevant because who's going to spend that kind of money, even though they're allowed to, if it doesn't work,
That's what I was thinking too.
That would be great if that's what happened.
If they all of a sudden said, this really isn't such a good investment.
Yeah, like this is legal now, but who cares? Like it's not a good investment, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like such an ugly election.
It was
so divisive.
I know.
And a lot of that money had a lot to do with that, I think. And the Tea Party people, I feel like if I was a conservative, they would give conservatives a bad name in a sense, because they refuse to compromise at all in Congress. They just don't. They sort of want to take over the country in a way, but that's not what this country is. Well,
demographically, it's not going to happen.
But also, it's not what this country is for one point of view.
No.
To take over and run things.
No, that's fascism.
Yeah, I mean, this is a country of consensus and of compromise, and
Yeah. And it reminds me of when we were talking about Pete and the John Birchers that were out there, and it is the last bastion of that type of John Birch society. You know, Tea Party seems to be angry white guy, and the thing that I read this interview with you know, Stephen Stills had in Rolling Stone, and he said the greatest tragedy is that somehow or another they've managed to convince working people to vote against their own interest. That there are a lot of folks that I know growing up. This was a blue collar town. We had steel mills and all that other kind of stuff, and you know, they're screaming Benghazi, 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 and I'm thinking, what? You don't see that this is just another propaganda notion of trying to, you know, last minute, you know, trying to turn the election into something that it's not. And you know, I was the first one when the thing happened to Bush. I was the first one that was like yelling about, you know, don't go into Iraq, and you know, I was, and all my friends were like, "What's wrong with you? You know, you're not American." Yeah, you know, go to France, you know, the whole freedom fries thing, you know, was just, it's the same deal.
And the thing with the embassy, during the Bush administration, during those 8 years, there were a bunch of incidents at U.S. embassies.
Of course, you didn't hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look it up, they're there in the public record, you know.
Yeah.
So, and it was dealt with the way they deal with it. I mean, it's you know, that's the thing, that it seems like the Tea Party part of the right wants to be able to control the flow of information, but at the same time, they want the Obama administration to immediately say, this is what happened at the embassy. You know, the fact is they were sitting on information until they found out what happened, and also because of security, you know?
Yeah.
So you can't, how can you have it both ways?
Yeah.
Either you have transparency or you don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's sitting in the chair in the White House. You know, are we going to be transparent or are we not? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do. It's the same.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think we should be a lot more transparent. I don't think there's that much that really needs to be classified, and they use the cloak of classification to do all kinds of stuff.
Right.
But if we're going to be non-transparent, then it goes whether it's a Democrat or a Republican or a whatever.
Right.
You know, it's like, give the guy a break.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we don't know about that maybe if we did know about, it would be, well, everybody would know about it. We obviously don't want some people to know about it, especially the ones that mean us harm, and in that sense. But you know, there are things that we don't know that that are out there that you know, I personally don't like to see drones bombing people, you know, in Pakistan. Yeah. But then I also don't want to see a bunch of troops on the ground in Pakistan either. So I don't, you know, it's kind of it's a difficult thing to understand. At some point, you have to go like, well, I kind of trust the judgment of someone else, you know, maybe, you know, depending, you know. Petraeus was a great big hero when they were talking about the surge, but now he's head of the CIA. All of a sudden, he needs to be arrested. You know, it's, it amazes me how quickly people turn based on just politics in general. So I hope that this election was something that I was expecting it to be closer. I thought that you were going to come in here and we were going to be talking about, well, who do you think's going to win? You know, I thought it was going to be, you know, they're
still be
counting hanging chads in Florida all over again, and here. It was pretty quickly, it took me by surprise that they called it, and watching Karl Rove run around and that whole thing was the funniest part of the whole night, really was. It was like all of a sudden Bush's brain, you know, didn't have a body, and he was just running around.
Yeah, right, like a chicken with the head.
Wait a minute, what?
You know, and I was on stage in Stroudsburg playing, and I looked at the screen, and it was only 10, whatever. It was early.
Yeah, it was around, before 11.
Yeah, it was before. It was 10:30 maybe. I was in my second set.
Yeah.
And I looked at this. I just started the second set, and I looked at it. I said, what? All those other states came in, and that's it? Like, you know, because there have been a bunch of states still. So, and then I saw a picture of Elizabeth Warren with a check next to it. And then I have to admit, then I got really excited. I was like, really?
Well, hey, listen, in case you just joined us, we have Fred Gillen Jr. here in the studio, and we're talking about music and politics, and Fred's playing some tunes off of his latest CD that, Fred, when did this release?
Like in the summer.
This summer?
Yeah.
And Silence of the Night, and if you go to, set up on all the places, iTunes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Go to Fred Gillen Jr., his website. I'm sure that'll point you in the right direction to everything. And you're listening to Acoustic Songs Live here at WNJR at 91.7 FM. And we stream the show live at WNJR.org. And you can also see the video afterwards if you go to acousticsongs.com. I post the videos up on the website after I get everything done. And Fred, you want to do another tune for us?
Yeah, I mean, I could either do another song from the record, or I could do that Woody Guthrie song that's on the Pete.
It's your choice, man.
I think I'll do that, because you mentioned Florida. So there's more people living in their cars in Florida right now than it's crazy. So. I ain't got no home, just a rambling round. I'm just a wandering worker. I go from town to town. The police make it hard wherever I may go. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. My brothers and my sisters are stranded on this road. It's a hot and dusty road. 1,000,000 feet have tried. A rich man took my home and drove me from my door. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. I'm in your minds and I gathered in your corn. I've been working, mister, since the day I was born. But now I worry all the time, like I never have before. 'Cause I ain't got no home in this world anymore. I was farming on the shares and always I was poor. And most of my crops I laid into the banker's store. And my wife took down and died upon the cabin floor. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. As I look around, it's mighty plain to see this world is such a great but funny place to be. Oh, the gambling man is rich and the working man is poor. And I ain't got no home in this world anymore. I ain't got no home in this world anymore. I ain't got no home in this world anymore.
Very, very nice version of that. I really like.
Thanks.
I think now I'm not going to play it because I have it on the CD.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, you can take the CD and play it in another show another week or something.
Yeah, we'll put it in the Americana and people can spin it. And you were saying that the other CD has like Bruce Springsteen and other folks on it too.
Yeah,
the first
other record he put out recently.
Oh, okay. This one is entirely.
This one is like him telling the stories, and then it's people like me and Vanover Caravan and my buddy Steve Kirkman, and you know, more like traveling troubadours like us.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a thread of American music that goes through Woody, and a lot of people I don't think realize it, that you know, people like Steve Earle and Springsteen, you know, really listen to that. I think that wasn't it Nebraska that Springsteen recorded after he read was it History of the World? I think what's his name?
Yeah, the Howard Zinn.
Howard Zinn,
Yeah.
People's History, and then he recorded Nebraska after reading that book back in the 70s. And you know, this whole thing of like Springsteen going around and supporting Obama in this election and playing shows and all this other kind of stuff. I had people that were saying, you know, like, oh, if I hope he doesn't, like he did 2 shows, one in here in Pittsburgh and one at State College, and some of my friends had said, well, I hope he doesn't start talking about Obama, I'm gonna boo, you know, and stuff like that. Like as a musician, you're supposed to not have, you know, freedom of speech, like just shut up and play your guitar kind of thing, you know, like entertain us. We don't really want to hear what your viewpoint is, and that goes back years and years and years of protest songs, or even if you're writing poetry or something like that, people would write about things. It was about something. It was a way of speaking out against something, and for anybody to say that, you know, you don't have the same rights as they do when you're up on stage is ridiculous. I just don't.
I always tell people, like, I don't choose what I write about. I can't. When I do that, when I say I'm going to write a song about this, I can work on it and work on it and work on it, and the song will still suck. The topics, the things I write about, kind of come from the muse, or come from, but what they really come from is, what do I care about? What am I thinking about right now? What's going on in my life? And you know, sometimes I'm thinking about my divorce 10 years ago, and sometimes I'm thinking about what's going on in the world. More often, I'm thinking about what's going on in the world. And that's what Woody talks about, you know, how he talked about a lot, that, you know, this is what I write about. This is why I write. You know? I mean, I just played that love song, Silence of the Night. It took me 10 years to write that. And, like, I wouldn't have really bothered unless... Woody always said, if you're going to write a love song, it better be really, really good. Otherwise, don't even bother. Write about the miners. Write about people that are hurting, you know? And so it's like, I kind of... So it's like, you know, I know people can connect to the love songs because we've all been through that stuff, and that's great. But, you know, it's great when somebody writes a song that tells a story that doesn't get told. And that's what Woody did.
There's this alternative history that's out there that really is only carried through, like, you know, by people who write about it. And I know that, you know, Homestead down in Pittsburgh, the Homestead strike is something that maybe people locally know here about. If you ask people, you know, do you know who Mother Jones is? A lot of people wouldn't know, you know, like this is important stuff. Well, listen, hey, I know you need either to get out it. You can either play another, it's entirely up to you. You want to play another song, get out of here. I'll spin some tunes. It's entirely up to you.
Or yeah, you could spin the song I was going to play, and then maybe the spoken word one. The song I was going to play is called Halloween Day at the VA.
Okay.
And
that's track number 5 on here, right?
Yep. This is a song about the Halloween party with the guys from the drug rehab in my local VA hospital.